that would be on
I'm sorry for changing
diabetic
gears
magnesium.
from retina to cornea. I would be talking to you about lamellar keratoplasty. There are no financial or proprietary interests. These are the figures, especially for the postgraduates. They should know there are 1 to 1.2 million bilateral corneal blind, 5 to 6 million unilateral corneal blind in India. 50,000 are added each year, and the goal is 100,000 transplants by the year 2020. The latest survey, which has come just 2 months ago, says that corneal blindness is the second commonest cause of blindness in India after cataract. So that is something which is a revelation for everybody, and that is going to change the way we treat blindness. Now, there are two ways in which the corneas are retrieved for corneal blindness. One is hospital cornea retrieval program, where the eye donor counselor goes, is placed at strategic locations in the hospital. So whenever a death occurs, he or she goes and counsels the family for the cornea retrieval. And other is the voluntary eye donation, where the family member of the deceased himself or herself actually contacts the eye bank to donate the cornea. So this is just to show the MK media, the Optisol and the Cornisol, in which the corneas are stored until they are used. Now again, this is something which is important. We do normally 52,000 transplants in a year, and collect about 52,000 corneas in a year, and the utilization rate is 50%, so 25,000 of these are actually transplanted. Now, there are various individuals who played a role in keratoplasty. So first full thickness corneal transplant was done by Edward Conrad Zerm on a 45-year-old male who had bilateral severe lime burns, and these were the earlier grafts which looked like they were square in their configuration. The evolution of lamellar keratoplasty is credited by some individuals like Dr. Von Hippel, Gerrit Mellis, Francis Price, and Grove, who have helped in the development of the various steps of lamellar keratoplasty. Indications being optical, tectonic, therapeutic, and cosmetic. So these are the cases which have good to fair prognosis, like keratoconus, granular dystrophy, healed keratitis, and Salzmann nodular degeneration. And these are the cases which have bad prognosis. So whenever there are vessels or whenever the eye is dry, then these are not good prognosis for corneal transplantation. So we've moved from an overkill era where we used to just do PK and LK to a more customized approach, where for anterior corneal opacities we do manual lamellar keratoplasty or automated lamellar therapeutic keratoplasty, ALTK. Then for mid to posterior stromal opacities we do deep anterior lamellar keratoplasty or DALK. And for diseased Descemet's membrane and endothelium we do a DSEK or a DMEC procedure. Now this is just to show how each of these procedure looks like. So this is a DSEK procedure and this is a DMEC procedure. Preoperatively, it is important to see the level of the opacity and also the extent of the opacity, and important investigations besides all include the pachymetry and the anterior segment OCT. There are various instruments like the disposable trephines, dermatology punches, scissors, etc., which are used for lamellar keratoplasty. And penetrating keratoplasty is still a very good technique, but there are problems which are associated with it, which include problems which are related to sutures, which could be suture infiltrates, infection, ulceration, vascularization, and there could be infections which can also go at the back, then persistent epithelial defect, then graft infection with even endophthalmitis. And because it's a tissue from some other donor, there can even be graft rejections, and hence failed graft when the graft appears to be whitish in color. And despite clear grafts such as this, sometimes still the patient is not able to gain vision because of astigmatism, and then you have to resort to other options to correct astigmatism. And of course, the most ominous complication of any full thickness penetrating keratoplasty, which is an open sky technique, is this, that is the expulsive hemorrhage. In this, the corneal button has been trephined, and look at the way all the extraocular contents are expelled out, along with the retinal detachment, the expulsion of the intraocular contents, and a full-blown expulsive hemorrhage or a choroidal hemorrhage. So this is the flip side of a full thickness penetrating keratoplasty. But if you do a lamellar keratoplasty, then these are the things which will not happen, and the complications, intraocular complications, can be avoided. So to begin with, we earlier used to do manual dissection. That means this is a King's clamp which is used. This is asked for the proposed graduates. They'll ask you as instruments, and this is the lamellar dissector, that is the Desmas lamellar dissector. And just notice that there are so many corrugations which are present when you dissect manually with your hand, so you can't control this. So there would be, this actually would translate into interface irregularities and interface debris also at times. And this is the instrument which has brought about a true revolution in the field of lamellar keratoplasty, and that is the automated lamellar therapeutic keratoplasty, or the Moria microkeratome. So automated technique is technically easy, is less time consuming. There's virtually smooth host and donor cut. The thickness is nearly exact, and there are no interface problems. So this is the way we do automated lamellar therapeutic keratoplasty. So this is the corneoscleral rim of 500 microns cornea, which has been split into 350 and 150. And this is a keratoconic cornea. So the top 250 microns are removed, and the anterior part of the disc, which has been fashioned here, 350 microns, is then taken and is sutured with 10-0 monofilament nylon sutures, interrupted sutures, so that you flatten the keratoconic cornea as well as offer visual rehabilitation. Now, in these cases, there would be an interface, but this interface is quite clear, unlike in cases of manual lamellar keratoplasty, where this interface is hazy. And these are some of the cases for heel keratitis, Salzmann nodular degeneration, keratoconus, where ALTK has been done. The results are pretty good in the sense that the astigmatism is less than 4 diopters, and the best corrected visual acuity of better than 612 is there in almost 70 to 95% of the cases. Now, coming deeper, when the pathology is deeper, there are various techniques by which you can reach the Descemet's membrane, and by far the gold standard has been the big bubble Unwer technique. Again, you can get a short note on Dua's layer. And what is this layer? This is the 6th layer, and we are so fortunate to have Dr. Harminder Singh Dua with us here. It is the 6th layer, which is the condensation of the stromal keratocytes. So when you inject a bubble above it, you form a type 1 big bubble, and it has a rough surface because it's Dua's layer which is staring at you. And when your air bubble is injected beyond Dua's layer, then it is a type 2 bubble, and this is a smooth surface which you get after injecting it. It is a zone of 5 to 10 microns, which is there, 5 to 20 microns, and it has 5 to 11 compact lamellae of collagen fibers and type 1 collagen with elastin. The advantage is that there's maximal removal of the diseased tissue. The Descemet's membrane is a smooth graft bed, and there's virtually no interface. The indications are corneal ectasias, ocular surface disease, and desmetoceles. And of course, the contraindications are wherever the endothelium is involved or healed eye drops. The advantage of doing anterior lamellar keratoplasty is that you can have a tissue with poor endothelial quality, but avoid a tissue with a heavy arcus, and a backup good quality tissue should always be available. Now, depending upon where your air goes, you can have two types of bubble, the type 1 and type 2, as I showed you, and each of them has its own characteristics. So this is a type 1 bubble, which is just limiting itself to the keratectomy site. And as you inject the air bubble at 60 to 70% depth, after doing a little bit of trephination, you will see actually that the Descemet's membrane falls back. This is the inverted image, and the Descemet's membrane falls back, and as you give a nick in the overlying stromal layers, just look at the way in a live show the Descemet's membrane is marching towards the overlying stromal layers, and you know that the air is coming out and you are in the correct plane. This is actually the operating intraoperative OCT microscope, which has this intraop OCT microscope with this, so the surgeon sees this whole picture. And without actually having to imagine where your air bubble is and where now your viscoelastic is, to reinforce that supradescemet's membrane compartment, you know where actually you're working. So the overlying stromal layers above the Descemet's membrane are then removed, and now you have a clear Descemet's membrane which is staring at you, and you're still extraocular. There are no intraocular complications and no chance that suprachoroidal hemorrhage can occur in these cases. Now then you can have a type 2 bubble also, and I am sure you must have seen this with Dr. Dua's presentation, so I would just skip this. And just to show the results of deep anterior lamellar keratoplasty again, where the grafts look quite clear. You can do it also in cases of macular dystrophy and in trachomatous keratopathy, and also in cases of Hurler-Schie syndrome. So this was a girl who was 16-year-old, and we had operated 12 years ago. This is 12 years follow-up, bilateral case, Hurler-Schie syndrome, did a deep anterior lamellar keratoplasty, and the visual acuity is 6/9, 6/12, and it's an extraocular procedure. We've still not entered the eye, so there are no problems, intraocular problems which are related to this procedure at all. Then even when you have healed hydrops, if you do a manual dissection, that means as you come at the area of the hydrops, you manually dissect just slightly above it, you can still get away with the DALC procedure. And in this case, again, notice that the visual axis is quite clear and the patient has a good visual acuity of almost 6/12. And the stromal part as well as the Descemet's membrane is about 52 microns underneath. Now, in cases of desmetoseals as well, this procedure can be done, and this is the viscoelastic agent which is being injected underneath the overlying stromal layers, and this is again the bare Descemet's membrane which is looking at you, and a full thickness donor cornea from which the Descemet's membrane has been removed is then sutured. So this is the post-op picture. So in the single stage, you've not only tectonically rehabilitated the cornea, but also visual rehabilitation has been given. These are again some of the cases of post-DALC. In case of vernal keratoconjunctivitis, in case of chemical injuries, you can have Descemet's membrane folds like this following DALC, but these are taken care of, and over a period of time they would disappear. You can have shallow detachments like this, but these also over a period of time can disappear, or else one can inject air or C3F8 gas, and again the cornea becomes clear. You can have some amount of graft rejection, but with topical steroids, even that is reversible. Now then you can have peripheral corneal ectasias, which could be in the form of keratoglobus, and we've described a technique of tuck-in lamellar keratoplasty, and I'll just take you through the video of the same. So this is a case of keratoglobus in which the partial thickness trephination is done first, and as you do the partial thickness trephination, the pocket, which is 360 degrees all around, is then reinforced with the help of the crescent blade or the lamellar dissector, and this is the full thickness donor cornea, which is then punched from the back, and then 0.5 millimeters of the frill is removed from all around. Now this is AC paracentesis which is being done, and this full thickness donor cornea with the partial flange is then taken and is placed into the pocket which had been created all around, and this is with the sutures in and this is with the sutures out. So again you can hardly make out that surgery was done, and this is with a visual acuity of 6/9. Now you can do that for pellucid marginal degeneration also. The only difference is that the flange is only partial because the corneal thinning is only partial. So it's only there inferiorly. So the flange is made only inferiorly, and then it is tucked inside the pocket that was created. Now coming to the posterior lamellar keratoplasty, DSEK is replacement of the diseased Descemet's membrane with the Descemet's membrane and endothelium. And these are the cases which are suitable for DSEK. Wherever the endothelium is compromised, you do need adequate space in the anterior chamber for the graft to sit there. And the important thing is that the visual rehabilitation after PKP takes 12 months, after DSEK takes 3 months, and after DMEK takes only 1 month. So as you go thinner, the visual rehabilitation is faster. So these are the cases which can be taken up for DSEK. But when you have stromal scarring such as this, then you cannot take up these cases for DSEK. You have to do a full thickness penetrating keratoplasty. And I would like to show you just this case which was actually referred for penetrating keratoplasty. So the hypertrophic epithelium was removed. So first rhexis or epitheliorhexis was done. Then this was a Descemet's membrane which was quite fibrosed and calcified, and this was also removed. So descemetorhexis was done. Then there was a cataract which was present, and this was stained, the anterior capsule was stained with the trypan blue dye, and a third rhexis or anterior capsulorhexis was done. This was followed by a foldable intraocular lens implantation, and the lenticule which was taken, which is about 150 to 120 microns as I showed you previously, that is taken, loaded onto the Buson's glide, and is then pulled intracamerally inside the anterior chamber. Now this is followed by the air bubble installation, and just like the LASIK flap sticks to the front of the cornea, the DSEK graft sticks to the back of the cornea with the help of the air bubble, which our vitreoretinal surgeons also use to tamponade the retina. So this is the picture, visual acuity of 6/12 at 5 years of follow-up, and we didn't have to put the sutures, we didn't have to do a full thickness keratoplasty. It's a sutureless transplant that has been done with good results. Now this is just to show the same procedure. If you have an intraoperative OCT microscope, you can actually see where the graft is in hazy corneas, which is a reality in our part of the world where you have to do DSEK in hazy corneas. So if you have an intraop OCT microscope, you put air bubble, you can see it's sticking to the back of the cornea. and you know that it is quite stuck, or it is a little bit detached, then your air bubble can be titrated, and so that it's completely attached to the back of the cornea. Now this is how again the DSEC triple would look like, where you've done cataract surgery also with foldable intraocular lens implantation and replacement of the diseased Descemet's membrane and endothelium. Now the thinner is better, so we use 400 microns microkeratome instead of 350, and look at the graft, the DSEC graft, where you can't even make out, it's so thin, it's sub 100 microns that you can't make out where the graft is sitting. And this is the final surgical development or innovation that has occurred, and then that is the pure Descemet's membrane roll. So this is the Descemet's membrane which has been stained with the trypan blue dye, and this is removed from all sides of the corneoscleral rim and laid back, and then 8 millimeters of trephination is then done. The peripheral part of the cornea of the Descemet's membrane is removed, and this is a 8 millimeter Descemet's membrane scroll which will be then injected intracamerally. So we are becoming more and more physiological. There's no stroma here. So this is the diseased Descemet's membrane which is being removed after doing a cataract surgery in this case. And subsequently, this is the Descemet's membrane roll that is there, taken into an IOL cartridge injector, and this is injected intracamerally. Now we keep looking at the intraoperative OCT microscope, and when you get a biceps curl such as this, then you know that you are in the correct direction. So you can see it's quite folded, but you can't make out, and this is absolutely upside down. So you have to get it to look like this with the biceps curls upward. Now it is with the biceps curls upwards. So you spread the graft anteriorly, and there's now gap here, but as you put the air bubble, the graft is quite stuck. And if you look in the post-op picture, this is post-op day 1, post-op week 1, and this is post-op month 1. You can't even make out whether any graft was done in this case, and it looks as though only the phacosurgery is done. Even your fellow ophthalmologist can't make out that a DMEC surgery has been done in this case on the slit lamp, unless you tell them that somebody has done a DMEC there. So these are some of the cases. In eye syndrome, DMEC does very well. The cornea becomes quite clear. Then these are again some of the cases of DMEC. And again, notice that you can not make out in the post-op pictures at all, and the graft is as thin as 14 microns. And again, another DMEC, which looks absolutely, the cornea looks absolutely clear, and there are no sutures because again, it's a sutureless transplant. So important thing for postgraduates is the endothelial cell loss. So after PKP, it is 25 to 28%. After DSEC, it is 28 to 30%, a little more. And after DMEC, it is 5% more, that is 30 to 35%. Now graft rejection after DSEC is 7%. After PKP, 7 3s are 21%, and after DMEC is 1%. So that's hardly any rejection, because there's hardly any tissue that you are actually putting which is foreign to the patient's own tissues. Now one cornea has been used for 3 patients, rather 6 patients. So anterior part for anterior lamellar keratoplasty, posterior for DSEC, and the limbus for the limbal stem cell transplantation. And this was the first case report that we did. We published. When we did that, we were so excited. And so we did believe after this that if one person donates, you can actually rehabilitate 6 individuals. And this is the thing which is going to be there in the coming years, because we have paucity of good quality donor cornea. So this is a synthetic cornea which is coming. This is the femtosecond laser which has been used, a pocket which has been created intralamellarly. And this is the synthetic cornea which is made out of recombinant technology. It's collagen. And this is then placed inside with the help of the forceps, and then unfolded intrastromally inside, followed by a bandage contact lens application. And this is the post-operative picture, case of keratoconus, which has been, patient has been visually rehabilitated, as well as the cornea has been, also the thickness has been restored. And then you can even do collagen cross-linking of this, so that this tissue gets embedded or gets integrated into the recipient's own cornea. So to conclude, component surgery of the cornea is here to stay, and lamellar keratoplasty is changed completely, and refinements in techniques and modifications would be required in these procedures in the coming years. Of course, full thickness penetrating keratoplasty is still the commonest type of corneal transplantation. which is performed in 60 to 70% of our cases, although we may talk about these fancy procedures, because healed keratitis or active keratitis are the commonest indication for corneal transplantation in India, as per the Eye Bank Association of India statistics. So the goal is 100,000 transplants, and we are marching towards the goal. These are our books on corneal transplantation, DALC and DSEC, and this is the book for the postgraduates on how to approach a case which just has cases, long cases, short cases, instruments, darkroom procedures, and viva voce questions. And there's another second edition of this book which has also come out, which has the investigations for the postgraduates. So thank you for your kind attention, and if there are any questions, I would